So Alex, we haven't heard anything from PlayStation since February. They're going to be back on stage at E3. What do they have to do at E3? What questions do you think you want to see answered?
Well, I mean, it's not shocking that we haven't heard from them since February because obviously they don't want to, catch in on the chain of what Microsoft did. I think it's going to be. We need to find out when these things are going to be released, right? What's coming first, next gen console? Is it PlayStation 4, Xbox 360, or Xbox One? If that gap is months, if that's 4 months of a gap, you may get people who would have maybe bought a PlayStation 4, but they can't wait. They can't.
Right.
They can't have their friends playing next gen games for 4 months before they do. So that's going to be really, really big. But also, what are those first-party launch titles? You know what I mean? Like that. What games are there? Last of Us. Is it going to be able to be seen on the PlayStation 4? Because if so, that's going to be an amazing game.
No, I can't.
But I'm just saying, you need to bring those types of things to the table where you go. I mean, Microsoft announced they're going to have 12 exclusive new games in the first year. 8 of those are new IPs.
Right.
That's a big deal. Those are the things that convince people to buy one or the other. Now, a lot of it is just ingrained. You know what I mean? You're either a PlayStation guy or an Xbox guy, or you have both, which is a luxury. But for the most part, I have those friends that are like, oh yeah, we should totally play online. Oh, I only play PlayStation 3. It's like, well, I don't really do that. You know what I mean? So,
well, and I think there are things that Sony has to answer, at least in my mind, about its online service. I mean, they didn't talk a lot about sort of Gaikai, how that's going to work, what's the interface going to be like. Even the the light bar and the controller and the camera, is that coming with every PlayStation 4? How is that going to be used?
The Connect Eye, so to speak.
Yeah, they talked about it. We didn't really see much about that. So I think that's the kind of stuff that we need to get into. And also, hopefully see more playable software to really see the power of that system. Because based on everything I've been hearing, PS4 is slightly more powerful than Xbox One, at least on paper.
Maybe even more than slightly.
Exactly, yeah.
Maybe even more than slightly, depending on who you look at there.
Right, and I think it all comes down to, the coding, what can they do, but it's still Killzone to me is probably, it's a very impressive demo if that was really running on the hardware. So it's like, what is that game really going to look like in real time at E3? And then, there's some surprises. I mean, there's studios like Naughty Dog and some of these other studios.
Naughty Dog's a 2-team studio.
So what are they working on? Are we going to see that at E3?
Uncharted 4, man.
Who knows?
E3 announcement.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm sure there will be some announcements of new games.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that's where Sony's plan now seems to have really come into the sweet spot for them. They haven't shown the hardware yet, but we know there is hardware, and yet they gave great details on the hardware early. So now they come back and they show the box, which is like the beginning of, we showed you the box, by the way, we've already showed you 4 games running on it.
Yeah.
Here's another 6.
Yep.
Or whatever the number is. And a bunch of them will be new, because they have new games. And it's something where I think as gamers, we trust Sony's internal development teams much more than we trust Microsoft.
Absolutely.
I mean, you brought up the Microsoft thing, and immediately everyone said, oh, how many of those are Kinect games? And how many of them are throwaway games? And yet if Sony tells you we've got 8 new IP exclusives, you're like,
you
oh,
trust
awesome.
Sony. And I think that's the thing with Sony is they're going to deliver incredible first-party games. Microsoft, as you said, are those XBLA games? Are they Kinect games? It's like, I don't think Microsoft has really convinced us that they're going to be able to deliver. They have Halo, obviously, but they didn't really talk about a new Halo game.
Right, but I mean, they have 2 different audiences too. I mean, Microsoft has always positioned themselves as more of a family-friendly console, as in like, you can play this with your kids and things like that. And I feel like when you look at Sony's lineup for family-friendly titles, it's like Ratchet Championship, and like that's it.
Yeah.
And I think that that's not a bad thing, but from a hardcore, like, core gamer perspective, that's why I think people are really kind of gravitating towards the PS4 as far as picking sides for next gen, because it speaks more to the actual people that are gaming, 20, 30, 40, 50 hours a week, instead of like a parent who's playing for a couple hours a week on the weekend with their kids.
I agree with you, although I feel like the online piece is something that I think we really need to learn more about from Sony, because Xbox Live is such a standard, and if they really want to convert those people who love Xbox Live and all their achievements, say, you know what, I'm going to pass on that.
But let's talk about that. Look at just the on the surface of things what they hinted at with their Facebook integration.
Yep.
And Facebook is the de facto network. Facebook is mega times larger than Xbox Live thinks about being. And Xbox Live now will have 1,000 friends instead of 100. Well, I bet there are plenty of people who have more than 1,000 friends on Facebook.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And they don't know any of them.
And use Facebook all the time. And so, I've been saying this for a long time. If Sony really does a smart integration of Facebook into their social network, that becomes a great in and out of game, asynchronous
Well,
game matching sort of tool.
But for a certain age group, right?
Right.
My nieces and nephews that are 12, 13, they don't do Facebook.
Right.
They think Facebook is for old people, which, by the way, it
It
is.
is. It is. No, I agree. It is.
And so you get that thing where there's a bubble here where if they go too far into the integration of Facebook, some people might backlash and go, well, I don't want to have anything to do with Facebook.
I mean, and who's putting these updates on Facebook anyway? I never put game integration updates on
Right.
Facebook. I just don't feel like my friends care
That's
about
not
what
what-
I'm playing right
actually
now.
not, but I'm not thinking about it in terms of, oh, I'm playing X, Y, or Z.
Connectivity
you're
to your
thinking of-
friends
It's just
in that
it's just
universe,
the connective tissue to your friends in the universe and being able to
And
easily hook up with
it
people.
is interesting. If I had, rather than just like a face, you know, like a little dragon guy and Bill's about 16, 15, if it was like my buddy from college and I was like, oh, my buddy from college is playing this game,
Yeah.
maybe I'll pop on.
No, and it seems like real names, you're gonna be able to use your photo and like that kind of stuff's gonna come in. But it's an interesting point that Sony has talked a little bit about Facebook. Microsoft said nothing about other social networks at all in their conversations.
Well, and both of them talked about this ability to share video capture of events that you had. I mean, there's a share
Share
button
button.
on the thing.
Thank you, Twitch TV.
I know, but honestly, that's what's going to end up being is it's going to be like watch my little Vine video of defeating this boss in this game that happened automatically, and I just pressed a button to share it with my friends list. You know what I mean? It's kind of cool integration.
Well, I think the reason why we're not seeing Microsoft talk about integrating with something like Facebook is because the avatar business for them is a big moneymaker.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So why would they want to get real names and real faces when they sell you T-shirts and headpieces and shoes and custom things for your online avatar?
Right.
I don't think they want to walk away from that.
Yeah,
make
but
their
what if
money
that
off used
avatar
games.
is now on Facebook? You know what I mean? Where you can buy the Xbox Halo shirt for a virtual representation of yourself on Facebook. Or you have access to something that you can show people on Facebook because I did a certain thing in a game. I mean, that's the kind of stuff where you can
No,
just kinda
that's why
go,
the online piece of this, I think, is going to be such a key thing to understand, and like seeing what Sony says at E3 about sort of how PS Plus, like, are they going to charge for multiplayer now? Or are they not? Like,
Or will
what's
they
it gonna
add
look
more
like?
benefits to Plus?
Right? Yeah.
I mean, they really want to get subscribers built into Plus because they look at the amount of money Microsoft earns in Xbox Live and they say, hey, we should get in on that. Plus, we have this great library of games and we have Gaikai to deliver them. Everyone's hopeful, I think.
That's why I
that
wonder,
there'll
like, will it
deal
be
there.
a big, blowback when Sony at E3 say I don't know this, they say, oh, now we're going to charge for multiplayer. You have to be a PS Plus member to play multiplayer or something like that.
they're not going to do that because there's a
know.
free version of Xbox Live that you can play multiplayer stuff on. You don't have to pay. The gold stuff is just
Silver?
yeah, right? Isn't that?
I don't think you can. You
There was
do
a
it
free,
multiplayer?
and
You
you
can't play
can't.
multiplayer on Silver.
Can't you?
Really?
Yeah, no multiplayer.
Man, Microsoft, you smart people.
Exactly. Yeah.
But they're smart because they started charging out of the gate, and I was
Right.
perfectly fine paying for it.
That's
but
what I'm
it's
saying.
really hard
There's
to go
those
from
kind of
free
business
to pay.
decisions, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like in some ways, last generation, people were like, oh my, I guess they knew Xbox Live from the get-go. You had to pay for multiplayer.
Yeah.
But like that's something that people, 10 years ago would have been like, what? I can't play multiplayer unless I pay? And there was a big backlash
5 years
against
ago,
that.
we were still upset about it.
Right, exactly. And now people just accept it. So
Yeah.
it's just sort of like, is that used game discussion? Is that going to be sort of, Sony's going to have to deal with it this time, or maybe they're going to let everyone still play multiplayer.
Well,
for
the other
free.
thing too
It'd be
is Microsoft really made known that they are going to own the entertainment space, right? That was all that press conference was about, really. We haven't heard much from Sony as far as what they do, but that's part of their box. Obviously, that has to be part of their box. So
It's part of their corporation.
true.
Yeah.
So you're going to see a lot about that talk. I mean, it's kind of smart for Microsoft to go, we're going to get all this stuff that's not game related out of the way now,
Right.
so that at E3 we can just blow your game mind, right? Whereas Sony now has to go, oh crap, okay, well we need to put that entertainment piece in there, but we also need to blow game mind, you know what I mean? So I think it might have been a smart move for Microsoft to go, this isn't about games. We're just going to do all this stuff that's not about games that people always complain that we talk about at E3, and then mention that a little bit at E3, but really just talk about games for an hour.
All right, well, we'll find out in just a few weeks at Sony's press conference that we will be airing live here on GameTrailers.com. When we come back next, we're going to talk about what makes a next-gen game in our eyes.
See all of our shows and game reviews now on the brand new GT app on Xbox Live and the GT Originals iOS app too.